Good afternoon, listeners and viewers. It's 5:35. It's a Wednesday. Welcome to The Cover Story. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. How are you, Siobhan?
Doing quite well, Sanjay.
Wonderful. So our focus today is on the government's announcement about the JPS not renewing their license. And high light bills and lack of opportunities for renewable energy. Those are two of the key factors that influenced the government's decision not to renew its license with the Jamaica Public Service Company, the JPS. Energy Minister Daryl Vaz made the announcement at a media briefing at the office of the Prime Minister on Tuesday morning. The JPS existing license with the government expires in 2 years on July 8, 2027.
Well, Minister Vaz has made it clear that come that day, the government intends to sign a new agreement that reflects its vision of lower and more reliable energy for Jamaica. He labeled the current JPS license as deeply flawed.
I think we can all agree that the people of Jamaica have not been served well by the existing electricity supply arrangements. The terms and conditions under the current license has yielded electricity prices which are amongst the highest in the region. The arrangements in relation to the license is deeply flawed and in need of significant reform. The current juncture represents the first opportunity presented to the current administration of Prime Minister Honis to secure terms which better serve the people of Jamaica. We take this duty seriously.
That's Energy Minister Daryl Vaz. He says the license does not allow the government to incorporate renewable energy into the national grid at a level that would satisfy it. Well, in the meantime, the local business lobby is calling on the government to ensure certain steps are taken during negotiations for a new electricity license. Okay, well, joining us to discuss further, we have CEO of Jamaican Teas, that's John Mahfood, CEO of Phosphorich Company Limited, Cecil Foster, and we hope to be joined a little bit later by President of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, Christopher Jarrett. But we start with the two gentlemen in front of us. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Hi, John.
Good to...
Hi, Cecil.
Oh, I understand we have with us Mr. Jarrett now. Good afternoon, Mr. Jarrett.
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. It's good to hear from all of you. Well, let's just start with initial reactions with you, John Mahfood, first. Your reaction to news that we are looking for an entirely new license, no intention to renew the one currently before us.
On the basis of the limited amount that we have heard, I think it's a good idea. I think that it's a good negotiating tactic. It gives the government a couple years to negotiate with JPS to get their costs down considerably while interesting other possible partners. So I am in favor of the tactic that they have taken.
Right. And Mr. Jarrett, the hospitality industry is heavily impacted by high energy costs. How has this current energy arrangement affected your members? And talk to us about what are some of the things you would like to see in the new licensing arrangement?
Yeah, thank you. Well, before I said it, I think I made some comments in an interview yesterday which seem to have been contextualized in a way to imply that I was a cheerleader for the JPS. And notwithstanding the fact that I made some comments that they had made some particular improvements and had made some commitments to do further improvements, I agree with the position taken by the minister that the high cost of energy is on the backs of primarily the commercial sector is a beating on us, and that's one of our highest costs next to staffing. So if we were able to get that under control, as I said, I think quotes, if we're able to get it down to some manageable levels, then we don't have to contend with the challenge of the operations costs running away from you. So the GHTA has always engaged JPS in the past, and I think we have a cordial relationship. At some point early on, JPS had initiated a program where they were financing solar systems, and I don't know what happened to that. That's an interesting point that I'd like to discuss or have a discourse about with JPS. But yes, we recognize that it's a game change, and we think it's a useful change. And we think that the attention to the renewables is important, and that is an avenue that we're prepared to look at.
And speaking of renewables, Cecil Foster over at Fosterich, that is a part of your business model. How would this new, or better yet, how would a new arrangement which better incorporates renewables impact your business?
There is no doubt that Jamaica has an energy cost problem. Whatever the inputs are that cause this to be a problem, it is so. It is a problem from the point of view where you are competing with global, companies, global partners, and they have a long head start. For instance, even the Caribbean here, they have a long head start. We know there are certain things that we know. We know, one, that the energy cost to the entire Jamaica is too high. We know that it prevents us from competing. We know that there are hindrances. But what we need to do is to make a decision as to what we want to be as an energy-driven company going forward. And that is where the problem is. We don't have an energy problem because the sun shines every day. We can buy fossil fuel even though it's expensive. We can do wind plant. We can do hydro plant. What we do have in Jamaica is what I would regard as an energy decision-making problem. And with the minister saying that he is focusing on more renewable energy, it's a good thing for Jamaica, it's a good thing for individuals, it's a good thing for Fosterich. Because we're not only doing this for ourselves, we are doing it to help the environment, and we are doing it to also make affordable energy reach to the people of the country. And so JPS has been a very good company, and it's a situation where management from all levels need to sit down and work out how we're going to achieve the goals that we have set out for ourselves. And renewable energy input into this is a very, very important part, and we are happy for that at Fosterich.
We want to look now on what are some of those specifics that you would like to see. And I want to start with you, John, from the Jamaica business sector. What specific reforms or structural changes would you like to see reflected in this new license?
So the cost of our electricity is about 30 cents per kilowatt hour. When you compare that with other countries in the Caribbean that don't provide oil, that don't have oil, like Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, and Panama, we are double the price of electricity of those places. So we need to get from 30 cents per kilowatt hour down to about 15. It's a long way down. We're coming from 10 years ago, 42 cents or so. Now, the cost of electricity is made up by the cost of producing the electricity, the cost of distribution of the electricity, the taxes that are charged by the government on the oil, and of course, theft. So some of this is in the control of JPS, that is the distribution cost, where they are about 12 cents per kilowatt hour, which is again double what other countries are charging. So we have to get the cost of distribution from JPS down from 12, 13 cents a kilowatt hour down to 6. We have to get the cost of theft down. That is 20% of the cost of our electricity. That is not entirely in the hands of JPS. That is partly in the hands of the government and partly in the hands of JPS. And whoever comes in, whether it is JPS or another provider, they're going to want the government to be involved in reducing theft. And they will also, because JPS is not the only provider of the generating electricity, they are dependent on other people producing electricity. Those costs have to come down as well. And that's not necessarily just in the control of JPS. So the government is going to have to partner with whoever they are talking to, whether it is JPS or anybody else. And the government is going to have to play a big part in assisting in getting that cost down from 30 cents down to 15 cents.
Interesting. And Christopher Jarrett, your industry, that is the hotel and tourism, has very specific needs. How would you better put those forward in terms of a new deal with the Jamaica Public Service Company, or just with any company for that matter, if the government chooses to go another route in terms of its electricity generation?
Well, much of the points, many of the points that I was about to make in response, I would make in response to your question was made by Mr. Mahfoud just now, that I think we have to focus on streamlining distribution, making distribution more efficient. And I recall the last president, Kelly Tomlin, was around. She had made a presentation that spoke to seeking to control the theft, the non-technical loss that they call theft. And she said in that presentation at that time that it costs JPS more to try to control those losses than to account for them as a cost of doing business. So, I mean, that tells you a grave challenge that the company faces. So, I mean, I might be chided for trying to temper the argument to keep it a bit balanced. But in fairness, I think we ought to look at that particular issue and how it's affecting the cost of electricity. I mean, that's for the government and JPS. I mean, government as shareholders and JPS as a company to sit down and look at how it is that we can get that under control. But the sector, the hotel and tourism attractions and allies and so on, are very concerned. We would want to see, as I think the argument is being posited here, to look at some concessions for renewables. In fact, I spoke recently today with DBJ in an effort to determine from them whether they are suited to assist in that space, and they are funny enough right now looking at financing packages that will facilitate loans for renewables. So I think that's the direction that we need to be going in, and that is a major effect on the tourism sector, as you heard me talk about earlier.
Yeah, and Cecil Foster, one of the many discussions that individuals have had is about JPS having that exclusive control over the transmission and the distribution. And some have called for independent power providers to be able to have that access or more open access to the grid. Your take on that?
I think that's one of the points that the JMEA has been looking at carefully. There could be a separation of the operations and distribution. So, or the production of the energy and the distribution, and that would possibly help to reduce cost because you have competition in the market. And also, it is very important for going forward for the policy to allow for microgrid. It means, therefore, that you might have a housing development or you have your manufacturing plant, and you can build a small 2 or 5 megawatt plant to supply your needs if you think you can manage the management of it and also maintain the structure of the plant that you're going to be building. And so those are some of the things. And look at how you're going to deal with the integration of these plants that are privately owned plants into the distribution system, and try and also create an environment where the grid itself can become more efficient. I know the JPS is doing a good job at trying to make this happen, but we can't stop because we are not where we want to be at this time. So implementing a system of manufacturing or producing the energy and distribution of the energy include microgrid in whatever you're going to be doing, and make sure also that the mix, because renewable energy is not going to be the sole savior. So make sure that the mix that you're bringing to the market from next 2 years is going to be what will make the country benefit in a wholesome way, in a price reduction, in reduction in theft, as John and we've all been saying. And so I think the government has a task right now to make sure that they are going to do this right. If they think it is wrong, they are going to do it right. And as I said earlier on, the problem is not the sources or so on. It is the decision making that is causing. Because when we have a situation where you have sent out for requests for proposal, and it takes 2 or 3 years to come to the market and to be awarded, that's a problem of management. So we have to understand that we are managing the problem and making the problem become a bigger problem, and change that game as we move forward into this new dispensation.
And John Mahfood, although I don't suppose it is the most viable outcome, what if the government itself, at the end of this 2-year period, has no deal in hand with JPS and decides to essentially take back control of the light and power company? Do you see that as a feasibility?
No, I think that, the history is Jamaica, the government did a really poor job in running JPS when owned it. In fact, the government, and it's not just the Jamaican government. No government does a good job of running businesses, and we have seen it. We see it with NWC, we see it with JPS, and we see it with the bus company. I would certainly never want to see the government go back into running JPS. They will have to find a solution, and I just want to say that, Jamaica has some positives in terms of attracting foreign investors. We're very close to the U.S. It's only $1,000 of freight to Florida. We're in a transition shipment point, so it's easy for ships to come to Jamaica and go on to the U.S. We have SEZ, but in the last 10 years, no government has been able to attract a foreign investor, a serious foreign investor into the manufacturing sector in Jamaica. And if we are to grow the Jamaican economy, it has to be not just on tourism, which only brings in $4 billion US a year. It has to be on a mix of businesses. It has to be on manufacturing, it has to be services, it has to be tourism. And if we are stopping investors from coming because our electricity cost is too high, it shows you how important electricity cost is. If it were reduced to 15 cents a kilowatt hour from what it is now, and we had a chance of bringing foreign investors into manufacturing, we would have a chance of growing the economy, which has not grown. And that's how important this thing is.
Yeah, go ahead. You wanted to come in, GHT President?
Yeah, no, I was saying earlier, well, I just want to correct for John to recognize that the tourism sector is accounts for 1/3 of the GDP. So it's very significant. But notwithstanding, I wanted to just say that you had asked a question earlier as to what it is that we might want to look at changing from the GHA perspective. And some of the things were already discussed by Minister, time of use tariffs and wheeling and these kinds of things. But one of the issues that was brought to the fore by one of our members is why is it that the commercial, I know this is not a roundtable talk, but why should the commercial businesses pay more with respect to the rate structure? So those are some of the things that we would want to see discussed, although I don't have not au fait with the details of the structure of the agreement as it stands now. But those are some things that are, I want to say, contentious. Mm-hmm. And if we could get those ironed out, I think we might be on our way to a better space.